everybody. This is Dr. Crystal. Welcome to On Sabbatical with Dr. Crystal. And I am so excited to have a guest with me today. And her name is Helese. And Helese comes to us from her own YouTube channel,
Yes.
Love Stars World, where she talks about all things life thriving with ADHD. And just basically, she is an amazing human. I'm going to allow her to introduce herself, but I do want to say that this episode is the launch of a great product that really is the brainchild of a collaboration between Helese, myself, and some other amazing sisters called the Sisters of Influence. And so, what we want to do today, because we're kind of like, I don't know what, the co captains of
Yeah.
the savings challenge part, and our sisters in the community are doing a savings challenge. And she and I decided that we wanted to invite the YouTube world into sort of a sneak peek of what we're doing. And so we're really calling this the 12 weeks funding real travel out loud. So she'll be talking about her background and how she's saved in the past and what she's learned and maybe mistakes that she's willing to share. And I'm going to do the same. And we have a couple of questions that we have for ourselves to be loose guardrails for the conversation, but it may turn out that we don't get to any of that. And we also want to hear your questions. So if you are watching us in the live, if you would please say hello and tell us where you're watching us from and whether or not you have already traveled abroad or you are getting ready for your first trip abroad. So but thank you, Helese, and I want to invite you to introduce yourself and say all the things that I didn't remember to say.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Crystal. It's been so amazing, like working with you leading up to this. I mean, to be honest, yes. To be honest, we're co-captains, but you really are the one spearheading this. I mean, you created the challenge, you created different assets, and you expanded it to be able to invite people into our story. And anytime someone invites me to share my story, I'm going to share it because I feel like that is one of my main purposes in life, to be transparent, to be open about the things I've been through so that other people can learn from it. So I was like, absolutely, I will talk about money, I will talk about finances. And I don't really have I don't really have any filters around that because I feel like I've learned so much, and managing money with ADHD is a particular challenge. So I feel like it's important for me to share that. But yes, my channel is, so you can find me at youtube.com, / at Love Stars World. And I talk about living with ADHD, and I talk about the challenges. Lately, I've been posting about, like, I recently got laid off. I recently had a surgery, and all of these things are happening at one time. I spend my time between the United States and Mexico. Over the past 3 years, I've been establishing a home base in Mexico, along with spending, a considerable amount of time back in the States as well, because my family is here. And that has been a challenge, dealing with money, dealing with savings, dealing with finances, and having ADHD, which, if people don't know, it affects executive dysfunction. It affects your executive capabilities, prioritizing, organizing, planning, analyzing. I mean, when you're under stress, those things are basically under attack when you have ADHD. And the ADHD mind and body is hyperactive and has the ability to hyper focus on certain things of interest in a major way. But when you have to deal with the daily administrative and daily stressors of life, it can really impede your decision making, your organizing, your planning, which those things are essential if you're going to be good with money and have a good handle on your finances. I'll say that. Some people just have money for whatever reason, but in order to be on top of your finances, you do need to have those skills. And so it's been a particular challenge dealing with it with ADHD. Living and moving abroad. I talk about that on my channel. This is the first time I've really gotten into the finance piece of it, but I've talked about moving abroad, living abroad, the challenges with ADHD. And my whole goal with the channel is to just encourage anybody who resonates, but particularly people with ADHD, because they can hear it from somebody who's been through it, who can relate to it, and who knows that sometimes it's not as simple as going from point A to point B when you have all these challenges. You got the anxiety, you got all the stuff going on in your head. Talking to someone who understands that and hearing someone talk about their journey and that they still were able to complete their goals. That's the purpose of the channel. So go check it out. But yeah, we're here to talk about how we've saved and how we've managed to like make money. I want you to talk about that because you're like amazing in selling your skills in this online digital space. And yeah, let's get into how we're going to save for travel and how we've saved in the past. And I have the questions pulled up right here. So
Okay,
I
okay,
I,
good, good.
I don't have the comments. I won't be watching the YouTube comments because I've got our
Okay,
questions here. Because I
okay.
really feel like there's 6 of them. I feel like we can definitely touch on them. I feel like they were really good questions that you asked. So I'm ready. How
Okay,
should we
okay,
start?
awesome, awesome. Thank you for that great introduction. And I just want to say that for me, I have two really dear friends that struggle with ADHD. I personally struggle with, and I want to welcome Dr. Brian, a dear friend of mine from way back, and a colleague who is a licensed clinical psychologist. And I'm gonna mess up the name for it because I'm a research psychologist, a social psychologist. I don't know or haven't tried to remember all the clinical terms, but I have that low level, that low baseline level of anxiety where things that should not freak you out, I easily get freaked out. And it shows up in me avoiding things that I'm very capable of doing when that level of anxiety is at bay. But there are certain things that can kind of trigger me into high alert mode, and then I sort of have like that freeze, fight, or flight.
Yep.
And usually it's not fight, it's flight. And so I begin to avoid things that are easy. And then when I actually get around to doing them at the last minute, I find myself like, oh shoot, this was nothing. Like I put all that energy into avoiding this. I recently just, I mean, that's another episode. Okay. That's another, but I recently just had an experience where I got some very disturbing mail that I needed to take care of. And the 3 days before the last day to do it, before I couldn't do it in a proactive, healthy way, went to the website, downloaded the form, did the form. Girl, it took me all of 14 minutes.
Yeah. And you probably spent days freaking out about it.
Couldn't sleep, was crazy. It was just crazy
Wow.
for no reason. I mean, and I'm in a season of life now that I'm at the big age of 60 where I'm giving myself grace. I have to tell myself, you don't have to beat yourself up for every horrible decision that you made. I want to welcome to the chat. My friend Marseille has made it here, also in the clinical world. And then, hello, everyone. I can't tell who the other name is. So sometimes I'll know who it is and sometimes I won't. But thank you so much for joining us. And tell us what city, state, or country you're watching from if you are in the chat. And we welcome everyone. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel. Would you believe I'm at like 296 subscribers and I have been at 290 like forever? But I'm also only posting like once or twice a month now. Another
Yeah.
area of life where I've given myself grace.
Yes.
But anyway, I
Yes.
want to get into because I'm thinking an hour-ish for this conversation. I
Yeah.
want to get into like how I have been saving. I actually published a Substack article on this, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. If you are a reader, the exact thing that I did in 2023, 2024 to end up where I am now, which for people who might be new to the channel, welcome. So I'm Dr. Crystal. I'm a retired professor, and I have just completed my 12th country in 2 years and 2 years of retirement. And most countries I went to, I go to several cities, but I'm a sole traveler. And so when I leave the US, I'm usually gone for 3 to 7 months. Actually, 3 to 6 months, I should say. There was one time I went somewhere for 4 months, popped in for 2 weeks, and then went somewhere for 3 months again. So I really love slow travel, and it's really changed my life. The Exodus Summit community has brought me in contact with so many people that have totally changed how I see my relationship with money, my ability to earn money, my ability to talk about what I'm worth and what I deserve and what I charge. I'm just so grateful. But I want to give the floor to you first to talk about maybe how did you save for so what was your first trip? How did you get the travel bug or obsession, whatever you call it, and how did you pay for it the first time? And
Wow.
And what have you learned from the various ways that you've paid for it in the past? Because that's really why we're doing this challenge. Because what I was
Yeah.
doing before is not sustainable.
Yeah. And in that way, maybe I have gone backwards. So the first time that I've ever traveled outside of the United States was I went to Canada. This was back when you didn't need a passport to leave, to go to, like, I guess the other parts of North America. You didn't need a passport to go to Canada. I ended up, I don't even think I flew. I think I took a bus, a Greyhound from New
Oh
York
wow.
to Montreal. And I stayed in the old port, and I just had a job at the time. I worked at a hair salon as a receptionist, and that is how I paid for it. So I just paid. I don't even think maybe I had a credit card at the time, but I think I like just paid for it. I mean, it didn't cost a lot, and I was fine. So I didn't have to save for that trip. I was not a saver at that time. My first like actual like move going across the sea, because I think that was the original meaning of abroad, right? Like going
Yes.
across the sea was, I think I went to Germany with my job as a flight attendant. So again, these travels were covered by my job. I didn't have to worry about visas. I didn't have to worry about anything except I had to come with my passport. Yes. But other than that, they took care of all of that. So my first trip that actually, after I started really taking care of my finances, which came after defaulting on some credit cards. So I lived in New York since I was 17 to like the age of like 28, 29. New York was a very expensive place, but it was way more affordable back then when I lived there. I mean, I'm 41 now, and I moved there when I was 17. So first year, parents pretty much took care of everything because I was a student. But after that first year of college, I was like, I'm going to live here and work. So I, just worked, and I worked various types of jobs, but mostly like hair salons and like customer service and retail and things like that. So I just paid my own way, and I didn't do much traveling in those years. But once I started traveling at about the age of 22 to all these different countries, it was through a job. So I still didn't have to experience, how am I going to pay to go to Europe? How am I going to pay to go to Asia and all these different places? Job took care of it. Now, with that said, as a flight attendant, I didn't make that much money. I was only making like $24,000 a year or so.
Wow.
We had a base pay of like 60 flight hours or something like that, 112 flight hours, something like that. So basically, the way we got paid was really complicated. So this is for anybody who thinks that they want to, like, you can still do this, especially, I'm not even going to say if you're young, I'll say if you have energy. If you have a lot of physical energy, there's still, and if you have a lot of patience and tolerance for the general public, you can be a flight attendant, and that can help fund some of your travels. It's either going to be through your job actually flying you over there and you get to do layovers in these different countries, or you can use your perks and benefits, to stack that up and to use that. I wouldn't be against it. For me, it's just not in the place that I am anymore. But somewhere in the back of my head, I'm like, you know what? I could always be a flight attendant, but I would do it for like a charter airline or something like that. I would not try to go with one of the big major commercial airlines. But again, it's a good place to start if you are tolerant of the general public, which I no longer am. So, so I'm not tolerant of I'm just not. So I did that already for so much of my life. But I say that to say, the first time, like living in New York and just like running up credit cards, I had like two, like not crazy, but like maybe $3,000 limit, $5,000 limit. And I defaulted on these, and I didn't really understand what that whole process was. And they ended up getting charged off. So that means that basically you have been a delinquent for like 90 days on your payments. You don't pay on time, which is the number one thing that will kill your credit, is not paying your payments on time. And my credit score dropped, and they sent my debt to collections, and they gave me a deal to pay this off, meaning instead of owing the 3,000, you can owe like 900 or something like that. So I ended up doing that for two of these credit cards. And it was like my first time ever really taking control of my finances and realizing hey, like if you enter into an agreement with a creditor or a lender, like you do, that is going to follow you, and you do have to like take care of it. And if there are ways to negotiate, but it could hurt you in the end. However, credit is flexible, and after however so many years, it does fall off. And so these are just things that you can, these are like little branches and offshoots of the conversation, but I feel like it's all part of the travel story, because what stops a lot of people from traveling is the lack of money. They think sometimes they think they need more than they need. Sometimes they just don't have any disposable income whatsoever. So I'm just trying to introduce different ways that people can open their mind and think about, how can I get out of where I am and like see the world without having to necessarily pay for it? Or how can I make sure I have a good handle on my finances so I have a little bit of disposable income so that I can go take a trip here or there? That said, travel is a lot more accessible today than it was before in the past. I really think that with everybody sharing their stories, it's really getting into the people's minds that like, hey, the world, the globe is ours. Like we can go almost anywhere if we take the right steps. So that's why I'm adding all this additional context. But so I'm just going to fast forward to, I had another job that took me places. I went into sales. And if anybody knows, this is another thing. If you have tolerance for making a bunch of phone calls, getting rejected a lot, but like learning a lot about psychology and how to talk to people and how to overcome people's like hesitations and things like that, you could try being an SDR, because the thing is, you'll make a decent salary, and you will, like, because they will even pay different
Can you
prices
tell
based on
us
the
what
cost
that
of
is?
living.
I'm sorry.
Hmm?
SDR? What is
Sales
SDR?
development representative,
Oh,
or
okay.
BDR, business development representative.
Okay.
If you can go into a boot camp and learn how to do this. I went to SB Academy. They actually had excellent training that I still use today, because they taught us how to interview, they taught us how to write a resume, they taught us how to network, but they matched us with companies. So I don't know if they're still doing that. I don't know what the new model is, but when I joined, you did not have to pay to join. It was an income share agreement. That means that once you make a certain amount of money, you would agree to pay them back for the training and the matching of employment that they gave to you. So that's how that worked. But you have to kind of bust your behind for like 2 weeks, and they guide you through every step of the way. But it just takes a lot of communication, a lot of dedication. But I ended up getting into sales, and I didn't travel with my first company, but like my third, they flew us to Hawaii. They flew us to Portland, Oregon, where their headquarters were, so that we could have like a big company-wide meeting. The Hawaii trip was like a whole 7 days, like a 6 or 7 day trip, 5, 6 nights in a really nice hotel. I could bring a guest with me. I brought my roommate. Yes, I brought my roommate at the time. People brought their spouse and everything. It was on a resort, and everything was included. They did this for us because the sales team had exceeded their goal. Now, this was for anyone who joined the company between this date and that date. I joined at like in October or something, and I wasn't even there to help them meet this goal. It was really just, hey, I'm
Ooh.
blessed. I'm blessed and highly favored. I got in at the right date. And it was like, because you joined at this time, everybody who was an employee who was hired between this date and that date is going to go to Hawaii. I was like, yes, thank you. So again, it was like, I get to kind of travel and see, like, I would have probably never chosen to go to Hawaii out of all the islands, just because of how expensive it is compared to going to the Caribbean or anything like that. So I think that that was my opportunity to see Hawaii, and it was great. Now, fast forward to when I really had to just like actually pay my own money to travel. My sister is an excellent planner of travel. She has been a teacher in the New York City public school system, a culinary arts teacher for like 7 years. And she used her summers and her vacations to travel. Not only because, yes, teachers are generally underpaid, but New York City does pay a living wage to their teachers. So plus she had other credentials and other bonuses that like really bumped up her salary, and she was able to have enough disposable income to travel to, I think she went to Madagascar, Morocco, she went to South Africa, she went all around Mexico. And she's a big reason I live in Mexico City. I even moved to Mexico City, but she started traveling around, and one of her things was, hey, I want to go to Cancun and Playa del Carmen in Mexico. And I was still working at that same company at the time, making my salary, making my commission and everything like that. And I gave her my credit card. I was like, girl, book it. So that's, again, I use a credit card. And at the time I had used a travel credit card. Now, if you have a good salary or if you have a regular stable income, I'll say that, and you are disciplined, you can really make a lot of use out of a travel credit card. I know some of the ladies in our Sisters of Influence group talked about this. They're like travel card whiz, like they're like credit card whizzes. They got all the different metals. They got the platinum, they got the gold. You know what I mean? And I just, one caveat about that. If you use a travel credit card and you rack up a lot of interest, it's almost like the interest rate that you're paying cancels out the benefits of getting the miles. That's kind of the situation I ended up in, just to be fully transparent. But for a while, it really made financial sense. It made mathematical sense for me to use this credit card as my main thing to put all my purchases on, run all my purchases through it, and gain the miles. So that's how I was able to pay for, I just use cash, and I use credit, and I was able to pay it off. And, I kept using that travel card to go back to Mexico City, stay there for 2 weeks, do my scouting trip. And then I booked my Airbnb when I first arrived to, on that card, and all of that. And I've kept using that card up until this day. Now, up until this day, at this point right now, I have just been laid off like 2 weeks ago or so, end of June. That was a week before my surgery. And since I'm still kind of in recovery, I'm in the last kind of stages of like just getting back to my energy levels that I was at. I have to say, I'm kind of up against the wall. I am at the point now where I have to start generating income. I can't necessarily wait for someone to hire me. I have skills. I have value that I can offer. And so I'm offering that, and so that's how we're making money. That's one of the ways I'm going to generate income in order to pay for any travels that I do after I arrive back in Mexico. So I am going back to Mexico despite these setbacks, despite these unexpected changes. I'm going back. But when I'm there, I am going to be, basically getting my my coaching out there, getting digital products that I create out there, continuing working on the YouTube channel, and doing other opportunities that use my skills and things like that. And so that's how we're going to be funding travel in the future. It's probably just going to be like on a debit card or something like that. Or hopefully, maybe I can get some paid sponsored trips. Who knows? I love getting to travel through work. We're not going to put limits on it. But yeah, we can talk. That's where we're at today. That was a huge, long explanation, but that's where we're at today.
No, it was exactly the foundation I think we needed. And I think it was one of the reasons why I really felt drawn to your story, because I recognize that a lot of the viewers that I have, they might be a little bit older than you, but they are facing the exact same struggles, and maybe even, I would use the word, insecurities about, is this for me? Like, how do I make it work? I've made mistakes in the past, or I don't feel, like I've really been able to leverage the things that I needed to leverage in the right order. And so I think this system and this program, and this is a pilot, I'm being completely transparent here, from the mistakes that I've made and things that I didn't do in the right order. I am now like kind of like doing a reset, because I have spent too much money traveling. I did save $8,000 for my first trip to Europe, and I live on a pension, which is 50% of my former salary. And I recognize, and I never made a lot because I was a state university lecturer for the first half of my career. And then I got a tenure track job, and I did get almost a $20,000 bump in salary to teach less. That's a whole nother a good, how do I say this differently? An important piece of this program or important piece of my own learning has been understanding what you're worth.
Yeah.
Because you can save more if you make more. And when we are giving our time away for free or allowing our time to be exploited, we are often going to overwork. We're going to be underpaid, undervalued, and then we have to work, double, triple time to get the
Yeah.
money together to travel.
Yeah.
So, anyway, but I really appreciate you sharing that, and I think it'll be great for people to follow along to hear sort of how our stories shift and change. Helese has offered to come on once a month, so we're going to do a 4-week check-in. What is that, 8-week and 12-week, and we hope in the 12-week to have everybody, all the sisters of influence who are participating, to do some type of panel or celebration at the end with whatever dollar amount we have. And then those people who want to just like do another 12 weeks, I know I will be doing another 12 weeks because I can't save $5,000 in 12 weeks. My goal for this week, I do want to say that my goal for the first month is 1,000. I'm doing things kind of out of order. So in the travel kit, there is this. So this is one that I printed out that actually already looks slightly different. I don't know. Can you see that clearly on the screen?
I kind of can. Yeah. It says the start date is July 1st. That was my
Yes.
surgery date. So shout out to July 1st.
All right. Okay. Praise God. You look amazing for somebody who had surgery 3 weeks away, by the way. You're glowing.
Well, thank you. And just to be very, very transparent about that, and I love being transparent about it because it's women's health and people don't talk about it enough. It was a laparoscopic myomectomy. It just means that they went in with like cameras with small incisions and like pulled out a big fibroid, and they took out they did some with a procedure called Sonata, which means they use heat basically to shrink them, and they'll like break down, the smaller ones will break down in that way. And I say all that to say it's less invasive. It's not the same as them just cutting you open like a C-section and pulling out a fibroid, which they did do to me 10 years ago because I had a huge one, but you couldn't see it from the outside, but it was affecting my life in such a terrible way. So now that it's kind of like I've had this like second kind of new leaf turning over with my health. And I think the reason why I look so good, thank you for saying that, is because it is a procedure that's available to women if they can find someone to do it. It's less downtime, it's less invasive, and it helps women get back to their regular activities sooner. Not that they shouldn't rest, because they absolutely should. But me personally, I've already done periods of time where I didn't work, where I did deep rest, and I just have so many ideas, and I have the support now from people like you and all of our groups and everything. And I'm like, I just want to get going. So I was really grateful for this type of surgery that does allow you to get back on your feet like a lot sooner. So that's what it is. Yeah. So I just want to put that in context.
Okay, I understand. Well, thank you for sharing that. Again, I think your level of transparency is really refreshing. There was an episode that Stephanie and Rashida did for those people in the Exodus Summit community that talked about how rarely people talk about money. And we had already decided to do this when they said this. I was like, okay, Holy Spirit, there's our confirmation that we're on the right track. But I think this is one of the ways that we get free. My community is people of color, not necessarily just Black women, and also there's some men in my community. Shout out to Dr. Brian and a handful of other people who are when they come or when they watch, are vocal in the comments. And I respect that. I feel like we have to get free by being honest about where we are so that we can get the support that we actually need and the strategies that we actually need. I shared this. I was actually going to share this at the end. So there is a digital workbook that has these tools in that I'm going to cover at the end. But right now I'm supposed to be talking about my own money story with travel. I do want to say that I didn't start traveling internationally until my daughter began traveling internationally. I had been talking about traveling internationally since I was 18 years old. I had a desire to go to Paris. I was in the French club. I was vice president of the French club. I was in a French theater production, high school theater production in French. Le Petit Loup, Little Riding Hood. Le Petit.
Wait, Le Petit Loup?
I think it's Lou. I don't know. I don't remember what it was. Le Petit Zone. But it was basically Little Red Riding Hood. Le Petit Rouge,
Oh, La Petite
the little red,
Rouge.
Le
I thought
Petit
you said
Rouge,
Lou. I was like,
Rouge,
oh, okay,
Le
Rouge.
Petit
That makes
Rouge.
sense. Little Red, something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was the name of the play. But I say all that to say that my parents, and I don't want to get us in the briar patch, but my parents were like, "You have lost your mind if you think we're going to let you go with a bunch of white people to Paris for a week." And my parents could afford the trip. So I had to participate as a leader in the club with all the fundraising. They were like, "Absolutely not. Don't even think about it. There's no way." And so my little
Wow.
heart was broken. But, I was in high school in the 80s. And, really, black people and white people didn't even go to high school together until the 70s. Not for real, for
Mm.
real. And I was in Alabama. I went to high school in Montgomery Catholic High in Alabama. And I really wanted to go to Paris so badly. Anyway, so I just finally got to Paris to celebrate my 60th birthday a few months ago.
Yes, I'm like,
But
weren't you just in Paris? Like
yeah, but
you
that was I
were
had
there.
been in France before, but I had not been to Paris. I went to France when I went to Spain, because somebody told me in Spain, you could just take a bus over the border and go spend the weekend there since you're here for so long. So my Airbnb host said, "Why don't you do that? That would be wonderful for you since you've never been." And the border towns to Spain, they speak Spanish and French, and I've been working on my Spanish for a long time. So I say
Nice.
that to say that this dream of being an international traveler had been a long time coming. So my first actual international trip was probably like a church bus trip over the border to Canada. And I also had an academic conference in Hawaii when I was young. But again, these were things that mostly I didn't pay or didn't pay a lot for. So
Yeah.
in my mind, it costs an arm and a leg, and I
Yep.
had never
Yep.
even looked up a plane ticket. I had no
Exactly.
idea. I had just decided,
Yep.
that the world
You
said it
you
was
you psych
expensive to
yourself
travel.
out before you even get a chance. You don't do the research and you don't do the math. I was thinking about that before we started this conversation. I said one of the things that stopped me, and one of the things like when I would hear Black women talk about how they moved here, how they moved there, how they, I'm like, how do you afford it? It must take so much more money than I've ever made in my life because I've
Yes,
never been like this huge salary earner. That's going to change, but just with jobs and things like that, I never earned like a huge salary. I didn't know my worth even when I started freelancing. I didn't know how to charge, and I didn't continue so I can continue to charge more and more as my skills and confidence built. So, and my sales skills built up. So I always kind of hovered at a certain amount, and that stops you every single time. I just wanted to emphasize that because if you don't look up and see what all the possibilities are, you will think it's out of reach when it actually may not be.
exactly, exactly. And I would argue that 3 years ago, when I was putting together the budget for my first trip to Western Europe, which was, by the way, England, um, and Spain, and like I said, the France was like a last minute add on once I was in Spain. I'm really grateful that I did it then because I'm going to England to house sit again on Tuesday for a 2 week house sit, and I'm spending $700 for a one way ticket that was $400 just 2 years ago, and I'm flying a worse airline with a connection, not even direct. So I went
Yeah.
direct on a national or internationally. I went on British Airways. I went on British Airways for 400 and change in 2004, about 7 days after my retirement. And I'm really grateful that I did it then. I agreed to do this 6 months ago with no idea that it was going to be this expensive to go back, to
Mm.
be an international house sitter for these clients. I do want to say, I'm looking at the folks that are in the chat. If you have joined us, recently and you haven't put anything in the comments, I would really appreciate it if you would just say hello to the community and
Definitely.
tell us where you're watching from. And
My
if you have
mom may be in
questions,
there. If you see
yeah.
Smalden B64, that's my mom.
Oh, okay.
She may not be there, but she
Oh,
may.
okay. Oh yeah, she is. Okay. Barbara
Hey, mom.
Smalden.
Oh yeah, okay. So
Hey,
it's got the
okay.
full name. Okay.
Yeah, she got the full name. Thank you so much. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, so I'm excited to just talk about how I got the money together for that first sabbatical. So, like I said, I covered this in detail in my Substack. So I'm going to try to actually share. Where's the button? Why are these buttons so small? I feel like they're getting smaller and smaller. Um, I think it's this one. Share. So I want to
I
say
love
I would
this.
love to have you on my Substack. Are you on Substack also?
I am on Substack, and that is one of my least tended to platforms right now. So
Okay.
I haven't. I post like really personal, reflective kind of stories on there. Nothing really tactical like this yet, but I love. I mean, this is very helpful. So
Yeah, so the reason why I'm sharing this is because I think if people want to look at like the types of things I did, like I said, I felt like I did a lot of things at the last minute and in the wrong order, and I created a lot of anxiety and stress for myself. But the playbook is here. So this is a picture of me on a Black experience in British history tour with a dear friend of mine that I met from Exodus Summit in London, who was a house sitter. And so I have kind of like the steps that I went through, and then I have kind of like things you need to think about, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it had to happen in this area. And here is a picture of the cover of the digital book that I workbook that I created, and information about how to get oh, these are just the other articles. But I would love it if you would subscribe to my
amazing.
Substack. And I just want to say that basically the moral of the story is, we had a pandemic, and during the
Yeah.
pandemic, I was a car owner. I had just bought a brand new, really cute Nissan Altima. I bought it in 2019, and it was a 2017. And I didn't actually need a car, but I could afford a car, and so people said, "Oh, you should have a car." So
And
I
where were you
decided
at
to.
the time? Were you in
I was
Atlanta?
living in Chicago. I was
Oh,
teaching.
Chicago.
I
Okay.
was I was a faculty in residence. So that's another cheat code for saving money. Finding a job that involves housing. So I had my
That
full-time
part. Yeah.
salary, and I was working for the residence life as a faculty in residence, living in the dorm and doing additional programming on weekends, holidays, and breaks. And then I had to have office hours during the week. So, but some of the students who were living in the dorm were also students in my class, and they just couldn't believe that they were living. That's what really freaked them out sometimes. I was like, you should be behaving anyway. I shouldn't run into you doing anything you got no business doing. I mean, what's the problem?
Right.
But they have really nice apartments on each floor of the residence hall. But usually there would be one or two faculty that would be there. And a lot of universities have that kind of thing. And you don't have to be a faculty person to get a residency type position. Um,
Mm.
I mentioned that to say that that's how I ended up having like a lot of disposable income in that season of my life during that year. But then the pandemic happened, and the students didn't want to do right and follow any of the rules. And I was like, I'm gonna get out of here, because at that point we didn't know what COVID was. We didn't know how long it was gonna be. We're like, we're gonna die. So long story short, so I had this really cute car that I loved, and I had an accident and it was totaled. And when I put the numbers together after the pandemic, when everything was online and we didn't have to go in person to campus anymore, I said, this is crazy. And I put the numbers together, and it was $800 a month. So there was a car note, there was insurance, there was parking when I would go to do anything.
Yep.
There was in Illinois, it's a pay toll, it's a tollway, Illinois tollway. You have the little plastic thing you put up by your
And it
dashboard
just
or whatever it's called, and
charges
it
you.
every
Yeah.
time it's 175, 290. I don't know where the hell I was going. And in fact, I never even looked at what the toll thing was charging me until the car was totaled, and I was looking at what it cost me to own the car. So basically, the car insurance, I had bought gap insurance because I'd only owned the car like a year and a month. And they were like, well, if you don't buy another car, then we're not going to be able to reimburse you for, I don't know, there was some fee that they were going to reimburse me. But I said, well, you know what? I just don't think it makes sense if I'm working 100% online to buy a car at this time. We don't even know what this pandemic is, what impact it's going to have on the world. So at nothing else, I'm going to wait. And so you had 3 months to buy a new car before said fee was going to be returned to you. I said, you know what? I just can't. But I had the gap insurance. So even though the loan, you know how sometimes when you buy a car that first year, you're upside down. So thank God I had the gap insurance. So they basically sent them a check for all of it. And I got $800 a month back in my account. And I said, you know what? I want to retire. At the time, I was thinking that I would retire in 5 years. But I said, what if I retire next year? If I took this $800 a month, I could pay off every credit, revolving credit card that I have. And then
Yeah.
I could find other, as I'm doing that, I could find other ways to move in so that I could generate extra income. And
Wow.
then it was really interesting that, so I don't want to go into the, so there's also another piece of this that I will just share, that when people show you how they feel about you, you should believe them. Thanks to Maya Angelou. So I had a chapter like that where the whole faculty of the universities, the state universities in the state of Illinois, all went on strike at the same time. And it
Mm.
wasn't so much that we decided to go on strike because we had been promised a cost of living raise in 2022 that we never got, even though we fought and negotiated. We were told, yeah, you won't get one now because blah, blah, blah. COVID was expensive, et cetera, et cetera. Long story short, we were marching on the street in front of the university, and I felt like it was almost like the heavens departed and the Holy Spirit came down and spoke to me directly and said, it's crazy how many hours you have dedicated. At that point, I'd been with the university 16 years. It's crazy how many of your personal time, how much of your personal time, effort, and energy you're giving to this institution that obviously cares very little for your well-being and your ability to buy eggs was $8 in Chicago
Mm.
at the time. And I was like, this is crazy. And I love eggs. Do you hear me? I love eggs. That's my favorite breakfast. A half a bagel, a container of yogurt with fresh fruit, and a hard boiled egg. Okay. And I've been eating that breakfast pretty much my whole 20 years that I was in it, because it started when I was in grad school. And I was like, it's crazy to me that they want $7 and change for a dozen eggs. And even the cheap eggs that God only knows, are they chickens? Are they eggs? was $3. So to me that was a wake up call, and like I said, not in the episode that I published on Substack today, but an earlier episode I talked more about what actually went down after that. And so I basically stepped down from a leadership position that I had in my tenure track job. I was actually the coordinator for the department. It was a department with 300 students that were calling and emailing me every time they had a toothache or their dog got sick or ate their homework or stole their car, or their boyfriend took their car. Yeah, just everything. Okay, because we're talking about first generation college students that are older students who are returning to work, who have jobs and families. That was our clientele. So
Mm.
the emotional lift of carrying that department, and don't get me wrong, I love the students, I loved what I did, I loved teaching, I love social psychology, but I was also watching people die. I went to 3 funerals during that period. Nothing to do with COVID. These were stress-related illnesses that just as you age,
Wow.
and you have a stressful
Wow.
job, they're gonna send you, to the
Wow.
hospital, to the cancer, to chemotherapy, or to the grave, or to the morgue.
Wow.
And I said, you know what? My mom died I felt a young age, 69. And I
Mm.
said, at the time I might have been 50. I retired at 58, so most was at 57. I said, you know what? If I only have 12 years left, I'm not spending it at this university. My mother retired at 64 to care for elderly relatives. And I know that she loved doing that, and I supported her in doing that. But of course, we didn't know she was going to have a heart attack. Again, stress related illnesses. So Black women were
Mm.
dying. I mean, all people are dying due to stress
Wow.
related illnesses, but Black women were dying at a disproportional rate
Mm.
due to stress related illnesses. And I said, you know what? I know how to stop this. The source of my stress are these people and this job. And I had to recognize that basically on the picket line, when I had that sort of come to Jesus moment, was that I had other skills, including the way in which I was showing up as an educator, that I could do in a way that would be as lucrative if I retired, if not more, as long as it was the meetings and the emails and the reports and the accreditation and all of that. And then the crazy thing, look at what our current, I know this is not really our main focus here, because I'm a social psychologist, is social policy, but our main focus is not social policy. I look at how educational policy has changed and shifted with the current administration compared to when I retired just 2 years ago. And all those reports they had us do, like they literally dismantled the whole Department of Education. All those
Yeah.
doc and show notices, all those pages, all those trees that we sacrificed for all that paper, all those hours pouring over numbers and reports. It's just crazy to me how, with the stroke of a pen, somebody decided we didn't need any of that.
Mm.
So I say all that to say that I feel like I was handed a gift or a new chapter of life. And because I had that clarity, I was then able to take about 15 hours a week. I still did my good job at a high, my core job at a high level. I feel like I continue to be a great educator. I continue to advocate for students. I raised grant money to do special projects, but I refused to give them all that extra time. And I took that extra time and redirecting it into downsizing my life. So the $800 a month was a catalyst. And the thing that kind of like turbocharged that $800 as I saw my credit card debt go down was that I decided I was leaving in 12 months. And I actually left in more like 18, 20 months from the day I had that kind of awakening moment. And I started selling stuff. I started giving stuff away. I started decluttering. And then my daughter said to me, well, you know, I bought this house with the idea that you would retire here. And I was like, nobody wants to live in the middle of Georgia. And then lo and behold, I realized once I again worked the numbers, I was paying 12, I think my rent was like 20, a gorgeous high rise, 1 bedroom apartment, view of Lake Michigan. I was paying, I want to say 24 and change. But you know, every year when you rent, your rent goes up, and it
Yeah.
usually going up like 100 and change. And this particular, so I was prepared to give them 25.50, but they decided because of the pandemic, they wanted to recoup some losses for improvements they'd made in the building, but they hadn't been able to increase the occupancy in the building because the new tenants is what pay for like new stuff, right? Because they charge them more than the people who've been in the building for years. I didn't know that at the time. But yeah, but they wanted $250 instead of $110, which is what I was expecting. So that meant I was going to pay them $26.75
Mm.
to rent a 1 bedroom apartment. Now, granted,
Wow.
beautiful building, every amenity you could name: pool, grills, doorman, computer lab, conference rooms, and like I said, on Michigan Avenue. But I was like, ain't no way. And by moving into my daughter's home and helping her with the mortgage, I would literally be able to save like $1,500 a month. So I didn't re-sign my lease and I moved. And so that was the next big lever that turbocharged me into early retirement. And so I'm actually going to stop the play-by-play there because, like I said,
Okay.
it's already documented somewhere else. But
Okay.
I think the thing that I want people to get that it took me a long time to get is that when we make the first step, it's like the certain level of clarity. It's kind of, have you seen that lever on Canva where it has the transparency? And it's at 100%. You know,
Yeah.
when you move the first lever, your transparency, where what you could see, the clarity might get to 80. And then you do
Mm.
something else and it gets to 72. And then you do something
Mm.
else and it gets to 68. And
That's
as we
very true.
make these intentional choices about daily habits, you know, I'm personally one of those people that never was given Starbucks $5, $7 for a cup of coffee. I, I,
Meanwhile, and I'm like,
yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, don't get me wrong. I drank Starbucks. But I just feel like people who said they're saving by not doing, you know, each person has their own sort of way that they move, right, with their savings. But for me, that wasn't going to be enough. But being able to move to Georgia and teach 100% online again during, because the pandemic was over and we were all back and we were supposed to be back. And I was like, well, if they need me, then I will be teaching remote from Georgia. And if they don't need me, then I can retire at the end of the month. You only need 30 days. The state only needs 30 days to start your pension. So I was like,
see, and
it's
that's
on them.
another thing. You have pension, which is incredible.
Yes, and they don't actually, and you know, all the people that. So long story short, what we ended up doing was we had lost some people, and then I was leaving, so I ended up being on a search committee. They did hire a new coordinator, and not hire, but somebody else became the coordinator who was already a tenured professor. And then I just got to do the fun stuff at work. And literally that's what I did my last year. And I moved to Georgia and I flew back. There were 3 things that I needed to do, mostly because of the grants that I was the principal investigator on, that I had needed to do in person. And so I flew back to do those things. But even that, that was back also when plane tickets to Chicago round trip, where you could still find one for under $200. And I remember when they were under $100. That's all.
Wow.
Yeah,
Atlanta
you
to
could definitely.
Chicago.
Yeah, Atlanta to Chicago around it because my daughter came here to go to college, and so I would come here to go to college. So either direction, you could definitely do. And then it started being like one and change, and now it's like 250. Now the last couple of times.
That's still, I haven't seen a $250 ticket since, I mean, maybe, no, because see, I'm in Columbia. So Columbia is not a major airport. And, when you fly out of a non-major airport, that can increase your costs. So,
Yes. So I do want to talk a little bit about the challenge, and then I want you to talk about what your goal is for the challenge. And if you have a number for the whole 3 months, or if you have a monthly number. And then we also have a couple of comments that I want to make sure. Welcome, Sabbatical Life. My friend Teresa is here. She's one of the people that I interviewed on the channel a while back. Thank you for coming. Those were the days, no passport. I think she was referring to your Canada trip. Watching from Stone Mountain, Georgia. Can you flip to make the text in the larger window? Oh, the document that I was sharing. Yeah, I'm going to so there will be an episode description, which will have the link to my Substack and to the school community where the challenge lives. So thank you. And if I don't put it there, just text me and remind me. But I'm supposed to do that right after we finish. And then we have another person, Refreshing Words. Hello, I am currently back in the U.S. for a couple of, actually, you know what? I think there's supposed to be a way for me to put share on screen. This way okay. I'm currently back in the U.S. for a couple of weeks and then back to San Miguel de Allende for my sabbatical. I have house set in Ireland in September. This time off has been amazing. Yes.
I've never been to
love
San
house
Miguel de
sitting.
Allende, but I definitely want to go. I've met some cool people from there. They were visiting Mexico City, and they were like, you've got to come. And I haven't been yet, but I would like to go.
Yes, so
I would probably be
queen of
house or
Mexico
pet
City.
sitting doing that.
So definitely follow Love Stars World. I'm sorry I didn't know how to change your name to put that on the screen.
No, I think when it asked me what my name is, I put Helese. And I tried to type in the channel as well, but it was too many characters. So I just said, it's fine.
It'll be in the episode description for sure. I just want to say, okay, so the next one. So there were a few deaths around me that prompted me to push up the date of my sabbatical. Yeah, that's the moral of the story, that tomorrow is not promised. And if you are working on it, then I think you feel, I don't know, to me, I've always felt like a little bit more control in my destiny when I can say, no, I am working on this. I am moving forward. I need to save $1,000 this month. And I have 17. I mean, no, look at me. My first goal was, what was my first goal? $200. And actually, I've already hit the $200 and it's the 21st. So I'm sorry. Okay, so I put it on there, but I've read it. Okay, yes, I just followed a similar path. I had to stop caring as much and letting go. The realization that I could only do what I could do. I let go of everything that was out of my control. Yeah, and that is the key. Like I was playing, I just realized I have you still as the, sorry about that. I had made you the pin when you were telling your story and I was supposed to switch it, but they have upgraded and fancy. They have made the platform on Riverside. I use Riverside to live stream more powerful, which is amazing because you now have more bandwidth, which I love. But I didn't watch the video to know what the new features were until like 7 minutes before I was supposed to connect with Helese. So I was
it's fine.
So I'm just looking at these buttons, but I just really appreciate you sharing that. And I would love to have, if you're interested in having you share your story about your sabbatical, I have another interview series where I interview people who are on sabbatical while they're on sabbatical or when they first come back. And then Dr. Brian says San Miguel. Oh, I keep forgetting. San Miguel de Allende was great, and I liked Santiago de Quetaro. Quetaro. Okay, hopefully I'm saying that right. Yeah, that's amazing. I also like this font that they're using now to put things out here. And then we have one more person that said something. I don't have Substack. Is it something that needs to be downloaded? No, because actually
No,
you
you
don't have
can
to
just
get the
go to
app.
the
You can
website.
do, yeah, you can go to the website. And what I love about Substack, before I was a writer on Substack, is you can actually, when you subscribe to something, the article shows up in your inbox in your as an email. So if you really don't have the energy, sometimes I don't have time to read the whole article. I will also say my dear friend Dr. Brian is an amazing writer and artist. I want to give him his props. And he has recently posted some excellent articles. I haven't read his most recent article. It's in my inbox saved, but every article he's written, because he has such a wonderful perspective on the world, and I feel like he's sort of coming into his perspective is evolving because he's also newly retired. And there's something that shifts, I believe, when you have dedicated so much of your identity and your personality and your drive to, all the things that the institution wants you to do, and twisting yourself into all the different versions and pretzel positions that they require of you to have a successful career, which he did in academia, in corporate America, in healthcare, in so many sectors that we have in the US. And so I just really love the way he is, kind of like taking the veils off and sharing what's going on in his mind and the way he's looking at the world now compared to before. And even my friend Marseille, she's not a public person, so she's not on Substack, but she's also a former licensed psychologist. She's on a family sabbatical, you might say. She's at home on sabbatical. And but she's in our travel group that we meet once a month here in Atlanta. If you're in the Atlanta area, not Atlanta, where are we? We meet in the DeKalb County, so East Atlanta suburbs, basically. We get together and have coffee and talk about our travel goals. So that's one of the ways that I have developed community support as well. So I want to say that this month my goal, so my goal for the challenge is $1,000. My goal for the year is $5,000. So obviously I'm gonna have to ramp up at some point. And part of that is because I'm doing this trip to England. And so that plane ticket money was money that I would have been saved, but I basically rearranged some things to be able to buy those plane tickets. So that $700 ticket should have been in this July column, but it wasn't. So that's why my goal for July is small, is $200. And like I said, I'm basically at $240 for the month of July. So
Nice.
for those of you who are just hearing about the channel, as I was creating the tools, I started using them. Who are just hearing about the challenge, you get to decide when you're going to start. But every week, starting next week, there will be something about the challenge for you to think about, to look at, instructions. I'm going to do little video instructions. But you can go download the workbook immediately as a PDF file and print it, or print the pages you want, or get the flip book. And I'm going to show it to you in a minute. But I want to do this next section with Helese, where she can tell us what her goals are and what are some of the things that she's planning to do. And then I also want us to talk about being accountability partners, because I know for me, one of the things I've learned is that when I have to tell somebody what I'm saving and what I'm doing every week, I'm gonna be like, nah, maybe not.
Yeah. Well, thanks for inviting me to share this. Okay, I do want to backtrack one thing, because sometimes I can get a little one-track minded. And when you talked about that first question, your travel funding, I was thinking trips, but I never talked about how I set up my life to actually move to Mexico. And it employed a lot of the same things that you did when you were revisiting your finances and like, what am I paying for? What do I really need? And I have to give a shout out to Stephanie Perry for this, because they had a conversation about what is your number? How much do you actually need to live abroad? Because a lot of the countries people were looking at living at, the cost of living was cheaper. So that's where you have to do the research and the math. So that job that paid for Hawaii, that job that paid for Portland, they had let me go. I had been there for 8 months and they had let me go. And I was still in New York at the time. I had been back and forth to South Carolina in those years, but this was back, I mean, a couple of years ago, 2022. So let's see, 4 years ago, I'm 41. I was like 39 or something like that, 38, 39. So I was like doing that was like the last New York year. That's what I call it. I was there for a year. I lived with my friend, and when they let me go from that job, see, I had already been in the savings game, but I wasn't saving for travel. The first time I was able to set a savings goal and do it, I was working at the census during the pandemic. Because remember, the census was the 2020 census, the pandemic was at the same time. So they had us up in the office. I wasn't going around to people's houses. I worked as an office operations supervisor, and I was working like 6 days a week sometimes, and it was like a hard 40 hours, sometimes 50 or whatever. It was super intense, but it was only like a 6-month contract because they didn't bring me on until the end of the project. So I was able to save. I was like, let's see, I make this amount every week. I need to save $5,000 or whatever it was. I needed to save like $800 every paycheck. So that was like the first time I set a savings goal and stuck to it. And it's because my income was very stable. It didn't involve me doing any other. I hadn't really like started freelancing and stuff yet. I hadn't really gotten into that game yet. And I hadn't really, I didn't really have a lot of stuff that I could sell for a lot of money. You know, it was strictly through having an income and putting it away and just saving the same amount of money every paycheck and doing it like that. But then when I was at Open Sesame, actually, I was able to save I came to New York with like 15 or 20K in my savings because I was, like I said, I had gone back and forth between South Carolina and New York. I was in South Carolina when I started that whole sales game or whatever. And you get decent salary. It is a lot of hard work. It can be stressful, but again, I recommend it for people who want to work remotely because SDR and BDR jobs normally hire you remotely. And they will give you a steady salary and you will get commission. And there's nothing like getting paid based on your performance as an added bonus on top of what you already make. Not commission only, but like commission on top of what you make. And I say that to say, I was able to save quite a bit of money because even though I was helping my parents with, I was contributing to the household in a certain way. It just didn't compare to the cost of living in New York. So I didn't really have to, I was making enough to save that amount of money. By the time I left New York, that money was gone. That money was gone. And so so here I am, savings dwindling, you know what I mean? I know that I need to get out of New York. My sister's like, try out Mexico City. I was still employed when we did the trip to Playa del Carmen in Cancun. So that's why I was like, oh, it's all good. I'm still employed, but now I need to move to a country and now I'm unemployed. So what do? I knew I had to have a remote job. I knew the job could not dictate where I lived. It couldn't be something where they said you have to be in the United States. And one thing that happened with Open Sesame was that we were given like a career coach. There was a career coach that was like on staff. She was paid. And I think she worked with like our clients, but she also worked with us. I was able to talk to her and you touched on so many things. And when you gave your analogy about clarity, and when you take one step, you get a little bit more clear. You take another step and you get a little bit more clear. One of the steps was number one, me talking to her. But the other thing was like verbally processing with her. And because she wasn't my manager, she didn't have all these other opinions about whether or not I was a good salesperson or not. She was just like, you coming to it straight from, I'm a career coach. I'm here to help you sort out your options based on your skills. This is even like, it's not about moving somewhere laterally within the company. It's about what does Helese want? And she was so gentle and like, it was like my therapy at the time. So she helped me see like Mexico is an option. You just have to make sure that, and so then listening to people like Stephanie Perry and seeing that people had already done it and like the encouragement of my sister, and she like helped me find like other jobs like on the ground in NYC, just other things that I could just generate income real quick. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And me doing my remote work search, I was like, okay, maybe my number, because with a 50K base salary, you're thinking that you need to make 50K because you're thinking the next job needs to pay you 60 or 70. But it's like, well, actually, no, you're moving to Latin America, and you don't need to have luxury accommodations. And if you can like just kind of get a gauge of like what it actually costs, maybe you can take a pay cut. So that's what I did. I ended up finding a sales job that was only inbound, so I didn't have to like convince anybody of buying anything. I only had to like decide whether or not they were a good fit for the company. And they didn't care where I lived, and they paid me 40. They wanted to pay 30 to 35 an hour. I asked for 40. I got it. They gave me a base salary because it was like a set number of hours that I would get paid for, whether or not there were any meetings I had to take. And then they slowly but surely, maybe 3 to 6 months in, they did add like some commission. But I was making roughly like $3,000 a month. And even though it was very different than, because I went from 50K base salary plus commission to like, what is that, $36,000? But for Mexico, see, everything is relative. Money is relative and income is relative. It's based on your expenses and where you live. And I had to think about it. I was like, I don't need much. There are some basics that I do need, but this could do it. And so I was like, you know what? I went back to South Carolina for 3 months, let my passport renew. And then I moved to Mexico in October of 2023 with my little $36,000. I mean, is that 3 times 12 is 36, right?
Yeah.
So $36,000 an hour, $36,000 a year, job or whatever, startup, volatile, don't know how long it's going to last. Definitely not a permanent position, probably not long term. But I was like, I'm going to deal with what I have now. As long as this is secured, I'm going to take that next step. And that's what you said is true. Clarity, clarity, clarity with each step. So again, it was community, because even though my sister didn't know the career coach, and after I left Open Sesame, I wasn't really able to really continue my relationship with her. So, and even though this person didn't know that person, all these people who I was getting different feedback from didn't know each other. They weren't in community with each other, but they were all in my head. They were all supporting me with my goals. And I was able to like synthesize all of that encouragement and information and create a new life. Really, that's what happened. So I was like, that is another way that I funded my travel, but it wasn't a trip. I looked at it as a move, so there's that. Now, my goal for now, so the way that I came across, your challenge that you originally created was saving the $5,000 over the 12 months for our Colombia trip, right?
Yes.
That's supposed to be with Sisters of Influence. It's going to Colombia in 2027, and we could save $5K for that. And that's what I was thinking of doing. But now that you have this like 12-week container, I think $1,000 would be for that. I don't know, what is 1,000 divided by 12? It's a little less than $100, right? It's about $89.
84.
Okay, I feel like I could save $85. 85 a week though.
No, 1,000 into 12 should be 80 and change per month. Are you trying to say,
Okay.
into 12 weeks? Oh yeah, you're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was thinking about Colombia. Yes, you're right. So that's 80 some dollars a
So
week.
I'm wondering how much money could I
But I'm
save
not doing
per
$80
week?
a week. I'm only so the first month of July for me was $50 a week, and then 300. So between 200, I'm looking at my form, from 200 to, so I want to be at 500 by month 2. So that's $300.
Okay.
So I'm
Okay.
not necessarily saying it has to be the same amount. And this is what I mean about, I created this in such a way that you can look at your lifestyle and what you have going
Yeah.
on. If I'm a mom of school age kids, December is going to be a challenge. Might not be able to do in December what I could do in a different month, or maybe
Yeah.
January, I should say. January is going to be, for me as a parent of 2, single parent of 2, January was the scary month when the bills came from the holidays, and just having the kids at home and having to feed them and drive them and take them places. It was
Yeah.
expensive.
I mean, so 12 weeks is about 3 months. How much do I think I could save every month? I think $100, $200, because right now it's about, I've got about a month or 2 of like I've got about like 1 solid month of like runway cash. Everything else is in savings or investments that I don't really want to touch.
Exactly. Okay.
So it's like, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, we are good. You are my accountability partner, so we will get to continue to process some of this. So if you
Yeah.
don't want to commit to a public number now, I only was going to ask you so that when you came back on the channel and people are watching in 4 weeks,
You have something to
you
report
could
back
say,
about.
yeah, hey, I said I was going to do, I don't know, $50 a week, and I did nothing, and this is what happened, and this is why. Or I did double that, or whatever. Because that's the other thing I was thinking is that, right now, I know that I have some things in motion that are going to compound as the year goes on. And this is what I meant about the clarity. When you make a decision to raise $5,000 in 1 year, and this is over and above all the other things that you might need to save for that you have going on in the world,
Yeah, that's just for
right? So
one
this is an
trip.
extra, it's like they said in church. This is the what they call it, the sacrificial offering. This is the sacrificial offering. The boilerplate in grandmama's church, and they having the fish fry or the chicken dinners or whatever folks are doing now.
Yeah.
Nowadays, but back in my day, when I would go to church, at least in the South, in the summer, there would always be a special fund that they would be
Hmm.
raising for some one thing or the other. So this is that kind of saving. This is the extra.
The
So,
extra.
so
Yeah.
so in the book, there is a section called Swap and Save, and it has different ideas. And we're going to be unpacking those in future episodes, ones that I try
Mm.
that work, and maybe ones that I try that I don't want to try, but I'm trying them because I'm doing this challenge for you guys in public, and people said that it was important to try this. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was thinking, so I think $500 would be really good for the 12 weeks for me. I think that would be like reasonable, because of course some of that money I just need to top up my savings. Some of the money that comes in between these next 3 months is going to be topping up checking and savings and just circulating money. But in terms of the swap and save, what just came to me was, so, I'm big on my hair growth and all of that. I got these braids in. So cost per day, I'm keeping these in for at least 3 months because of how much they cost. It's like, yeah, I got to get the most out of this hairstyle. It buys me back so much time every day just for my hair to just already be done. I mean, I'm sure you get it and
I miss
understand.
it. I miss it. I haven't had my hair braided in 2026. My hair has not, I have not had extensions in 2026. And I
I
actually didn't have color. I didn't have my hair colored until last weekend. I allowed myself to
listen.
stay gray because my daughter was like, a natural hair fanatic as well. Not fanatic, but in the good way, in a healthy way.
Yeah.
She was like, your hair has been through a lot in Asia. It hasn't been conditioned properly. You put that color in it, you might end up bald. So go ahead if you want to rush it. So literally, when I got off the airport, I was like, we got to go get some hair color. And then I wanted to color my hair because it hadn't been colored in 6 months. She was like, all right, I can't tell you what to do, but I wouldn't do it.
I think if you're going dark, then it definitely is not as bad. It can still be a little drying, but if you're not lightening your hair, you're not really doing that
Well,
kind
I
of
am
damage.
usually lighter than this. I mean, this is the color I got partially because of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
My
So
hair
I think
is,
you're fine. As long as you deep condition every time you wash it, you're fine. I
yeah.
think so I have these hair products. I've been so because I'm very big on inventory. Like I've started to buy on my contact lenses all in one big chunk at the beginning of the year. As soon as I get my new like prescription, I go ahead and stock up. I like stocking up on my skincare because of course getting things here is cheaper than getting things in Mexico certain times because certain brands they add on these import taxes. So I use a really inexpensive brand for most of my skincare, which is Good Molecules. And they keep my because I have acne prone skin, but it keeps my acne at bay. It's just a decent. They're very inexpensive products. They're 3 times the cost in Mexico, though. And so I think now my hair stuff. I've got my hair stuff, and I have a whole list of what I need. In fact, the list is right here. I have a whole list. I need to get 2 more braid sheen sprays, 1 more buttercream daily moisturizer, 1 large shine and jam, an argan oil mousse, and another edge cream. But I'm like, what if because I already, I told Google, like, tally this up. How much is this going to cost? I think it said it's going to cost like, I don't know, 70, 40, I don't know, something dollars. What if I just didn't what if I just didn't get some of those things, or I didn't get two of some of those things, and I just like, instead of like stocking up on all these hair products, because I already do have some. They're not going to last me until I get back here, but it's like I can find alternatives, right? I don't need I don't want to be so attached to certain things. Part of it makes me feel very, very good. This is like, I have my stuff, I don't need to buy anymore. But part of it makes me feel a little bit too dependent on a specific brand. So I'm like, if I'm doing a saving challenge and I'm swapping, why don't I swap out some of these beauty products for saving and putting it into my pot of the $500? So
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's what I meant by you make one step and then you get more clear. I think the other thing is doing this in community. You talk to other people and see what they're using and what they're doing. I was in Southeast Asia and I was out of the product that I bought, and I mentioned it at an expat for, what is it, Black expats in Panama? Not Adventures While Black. And the next meetup we had, one of the organizers, she brought a bunch of unopened hair products that people had gifted to her. That
wow.
she was now making. I think she's making her own hair products now. She's not using commercially packaged stuff. And so she says, "Well, I was gonna raffle." She says, "But if you don't think you'll use it, then don't take a ticket." And come to find out, it was like me and one other person that was only interested in it. She was like, "Oh, well, you take this and you take half." So she basically just gave it to us, to the two people that wanted.
Perfect.
Because some people
Perfect.
had just, they had just arrived and they still had plenty, and they know it's hard to get. In Bangkok, it's actually probably not hard, but I wasn't trying to like get to know how to buy stuff in Bangkok like that. I wasn't trying to get around like that because I was only going to be there for a week.
Yeah, sometimes that's the thing. I have
It was going to
two.
cost me more than it was worth to do that.
I got two big things of shea butter. I have castor oil. I have, and it's also it's Mexico, so they do have stuff for they have Portuguese, I'm sorry, they have Brazilian products. I mean, for textures that are closer to mine. So I feel like they do have decent stuff. They've got like natural hair products, and you can go, they have this huge pharmacy that has all the ingredients for you to make your own stuff. I don't really want to make my own products, but something that I'm getting addicted to is using up what I have. And another thing is
Yes.
I wanted to travel super light anyway. So like me not buying all these extra liquids and creams and butters is actually going to help me
Wait.
keep my bags light. And I think it's a good thing. So yeah, that's it. That's my swap. Not gonna top up and stock up crazy on hair products. I'm taking what I have. There's a few things that I'm like, okay, I need these certain deep conditioners, but now that I have that, I think the only thing I'm gonna get is one more of these, because this is the OG right here. If you don't know what this is the
Oh
African
yeah.
Royale Braid Sheen Spray. It is super light. I will get one more of these, and that's it. I don't really lay my edges, so I don't think I need any more edge control. I'll take what I have. I'll take the rest of the gel that I have, and I'll
Yeah.
put that tally towards my $500. Boom. I just saved 80, $90. So I'm proud of
Yes.
that.
Yes. Can you look at the questions that we had and see if there's anything else that we want to cover? I'm looking at the time and I want to make
Yeah.
sure that I can take any questions, and also give them a sneak peek at the digital flip book, which I had never actually made. I've made several digital products, but I've never put them into the Flipbook apps. This is actually an app. I'm on my laptop, so it's actually, but there is an app to do it. And I
Yeah.
was like, this is so cool.
I mean, I was really amazed at what you were able to create and how it looked, and how you presented. I'm like, wow, this is the games and all the different ways to interact your brain in saving, and the page where you have, this is what I'm going to spend on dining, this is what I'm going to spend on my ticket price. It really gears the person towards saving, towards travel, and it engages the person's visualization and scripting like brain to make this trip real. So I really hope that people do pick that up. The questions that I think we should go over are, what are you most nervous or excited about over the next 12 weeks? And finally, what should people walk away? What's the takeaway about the challenge, about us or about themselves.
Yeah, I am excited about seeing myself get close to $1,000. I mean, honestly, I'm not feeling, only because yet the way my brain works, the path isn't clear yet. So I'm a
Okay.
little bit more clear than I was a week ago, but I know that if I do the things I'm supposed to do, and I'll show you one of the trackers that I'm using, I know that I will get more clarity with every step I take. And so I feel nervous about saying that I'm going to have $1,000 at the end of 12 weeks, even though I met my month one goal and I'm continuing. So my goal for August is another $300. I am nervous about that. But I'm also excited about all of the possibilities because I made my first money on digital products because I needed cash.
Yes.
When I did, we talked a little bit about, and we're going to come back and talk about Arlen Hamilton. She is a person who I have an affiliate link with. I'm in her community. She has a challenge called the First 5K Challenge. And
Yeah.
I started my school community right after I went through her first 5K. No, I'm sorry. It's first 5K, but it's a 5-day challenge, I think. Or maybe it's a 7-day challenge. I don't know. It took me double the time. So if it was 7 days, it took me 14 days to come up with the product and to sell the first one. But I did sell, part of the challenge is to sell it to somebody. Because if you can't sell it to somebody in 7 days, then it's the wrong product. You should be doing something that
Mm.
people need and want enough that somebody's going to hand you $97. And I did. On day 10 or 12, I know I didn't actually do the challenge every day like I was supposed to. I was doing other stuff. I don't remember what. But it was in October, and I know I was at home. It was before I went to Bangkok. Oh, that's what it was. I was going to Bangkok, and I needed money to buy a ticket. And it was October, and I bought the ticket for December 2nd. I told Dr. Davia in our community. You guys have seen Dr. Davia. I've interviewed her on the channel. I needed to buy the ticket to Bangkok, and it was $700. I thought it needed $700, and I was like, okay, what can I sell to get $700? And I sold it on day 10. I finished the challenge and I sold it on day 10. I
Amazing.
posted that link 3 places, and I really knew that it was something that people needed. And because my name was out there doing something, selling something, people who knew me and knew what I was capable of, I had extra visibility. I was top of mind. And I actually would say that my side hustle traditionally has been editing, books, articles, dissertations, master's thesis, academic things. I can actually edit anything. It's just that's the lane I was in, and that was the lane that I'd made money in previously. And so someone sent me an email on LinkedIn, because I do post on LinkedIn at least once or twice a month, and said, hey, by the way, I know somebody who's looking for such and such a thing. I can't take them on. She was an editor, and she said she's also a person who's planning to travel, and she wanted to use me for the travel thing, but she says, since I have you on the phone, what about blah, 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 blah. And it's the since I have you, what about, that is the snowball effect that helps you get to that, for me, that will help me get to the $5,000 and even the
Wow.
$1,000. And now that I mention
Amazing.
it, you know what? I need to be promoting that $97 travel guide. I need to make
Yeah.
one for Asia. I need to make one for Southeast Asia. But anyway, so what about you? What are you most excited or scared or anxious about for this challenge?
Okay, I'm excited about because I've joined Arlen's 5K program, and I joined it months ago, and I'm going to be going really hard with it now. I already created some offers and some things. And I also have in the pipeline a relocation support client that I created like a customized package for. And I would be working with her over 4 weeks to basically get very specific things that she needs done. She already has a residency, but she found me on Dr. Maya's channel having a conversation about my move to Mexico. So you're right. When you are visible, people understand what you're capable of. And it is kind of like a hybrid between like coaching and virtual assistant, because I will take some administrative and some research to get her all together so that she can go ahead and make the moves that she needs to make. But basically, I'm excited to work with her on that. Another thing that I provide is coaching, for people with ADHD and helping them gain that clarity that you and I talked about extensively. This could include them relocating. It was something that definitely helped me. I was able to get off medication because I moved out of the United States, and I made a move that gave me so much confidence in myself that I didn't have to go into decision paralysis every time I needed to make a decision about my life, even though there were still some rocky times. I talk about them on my channel, but yeah, so providing that and really wanting to work with people on that. But I was already in the process of creating something that cost about $100 for like one of those clarity type of calls, so that when someone walks away, they come out with like, oh my God, like these mind blowing like epiphanies. And one thing that's really important for people with ADHD is verbal processing. They need to be able to talk to someone and verbally speak out like everything that's going on in their head. And so providing a backdrop and a listening ear and a mirror for people to do that, that's probably what the call or the $100 or $97 offer is going to be for me. So I'm excited to create that, finalize that, and put it out. I actually created a course on how to move to Mexico as a digital nomad, and I've created it in Linktree with Kajabi, but it's acting like weird, and it makes you like download Linktree if you're like signing in from like another device besides your phone, through Linktree. So I'm migrating that course to Notion, and I'm going to be adding in video that has like a bunch of like personal insights about things that I've learned from that whole process that I'm going to be putting out. So I'm excited about all the things that are going to help me make the money to be able to save the money, basically.
Okay. Lovely.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty also of what was I gonna say? Digital products or an online business is that you get to set your income goals. Like I'm saving $5,000, but I wouldn't mind generating $10,000, which would be
Oh, yeah.
5 books, to contract with 5 people to edit their books between now and next June, which I think is totally doable. It's like
It's
one every
doable.
6 weeks. Yeah.
It's definitely
So
doable.
I actually am one of those editors that I only really edit stuff that I truly love. I don't edit any and everything. I had somebody, the strange thing is I'm totally off topic. I had somebody ask me about, who was an author on their second book. And they said, oh, I need somebody to edit my book. And I said very clearly to him, because he had already shared some other information, I said, I'm sorry, that's not my genre. It's not really in my wheelhouse. And I am the kind of person that if it's not something I truly love, it'll take me forever to read it and edit it. And so I don't put myself in a situation, no matter how much money or the urgency the person has, I'm not going to read it in a hurry, because I know me, I'm not capable of like half reading it. I wouldn't say attention to detail is like a strength of mine in life in general, but when it comes to reading, I'm such a voracious reader and editor and love doing that so much. So my attention to detail is high or specific, very specific. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
hoping to also book some editorial clients as well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So I want to, before we answer that, I feel like that other
Okay.
question is like a great closing question.
Yes.
Like, what's the takeaway? So I want
Yeah.
to introduce this at this point, and I am going to have chapter titles for anybody who's watching this on the replay, so people can find the sections that they need, which is what I love about the Riverside platform. It does a good job. It's fairly accurate at that. So Passport to Peace. So this is one of the ways that you can download it, and it basically opens up the page. If you want to print the whole thing out, it comes out as a PDF file, of course, in a series of pages. And you can also print out just the pages that you need. The first thing it does is tell you to join the online community. It's free as well. And so you'll be able to connect with other sisters, find an accountability partner. And then here is sort of like the protocol, which basically, I don't know if it's, I'm just using my lap. I have the thing with
Yeah, I can see it pretty well.
yeah. So basically has the different phases, and I'm actually not, since it's not copyright protected yet, I'm not kind of going into what each of those is yet, but if you're in the community, you will have the opportunity to see it up close. But basically there's 4 phases. Even though it's 3 months, you can do the phases at the pace that works for you. If you don't finish them all in 12 weeks, that's fine too. It's not a performative exercise. It's you do what you need to do that's going to benefit you and help you create better habits when it comes to saving, and saving for a specific thing. So this is a type of saving for a specific thing which is from us a retreat in Cartagena, Colombia in June of 2027, in my case. So you need to figure out what the specific thing is. And then I am, again, the psychologist in me loves assessment and reflection. And so you're going to brainstorm things that you want to do and sort of kind of create your own phase and assess what you need to be doing for yourself. That's what this page is about. And then it's a reminder, if you haven't, not only do you need to join the community, but you need to go and tell us what your goals are and publicly kind of like put that flag in the sand. So the next pages are all about helping you with the assessment and reflection. I've got maybe 6 really good questions there. And then it's kind of some more open-ended general questions, which is, I called it passport petite. And this is the thing we touched on, but I don't think.
You're breaking up a little.
Do not trip when you don't have money. So when I say passport to peace, it's like you want to be able to save for your trip, know that you have enough, and while you're there, be able to sort of be in a place of ease and calm around the finances. That doesn't mean that something won't pop up, but you should also save for a little bit of miscellaneous. You know, there might be an excursion. Like, I'm a budget traveler that does luxury experiences occasionally. So I might spend 2 or 3 times what my daily amount is to spend on a trip to do like that ball out excursion or have that ball out meal experience. It's not something I'm going to do every day and every week, but I'm going to put one of those in the budget, and I'm going to put a little wiggle room. And so that's what this is about. What is passport to use? And for me, I learned it looks like taking a poetry class. Dr. Brian and I were in a poetry class together in Chiang Mai, Thailand. I invited him, sort of told him about it, and then I didn't want to go once I got there because I was wonderful experience. And so you also gonna need habits you need to think about. And so that's what this section of the book is about. I don't want to go with it. So there'll be a little video in the community every week that kind of will talk you through in detail examples for these pages. So you already saw, because I pulled up, this is the first version of, you can put a number about how your end goal is here, and then others that's, so for me, I'm one of those people, I've never done cash tracking. Next week's video will be about saving cash. People like me, we spend money with our phone. We pull our phone out and tap and spend, and it's not real money. It's not real spending. And then we look at our balance and we're like, what the hell? What happened here? And so doing something like going to the bank and taking out an amount of cash and having an envelope where that is the amount of cash that I can spend means that I know me, I won't probably spend as much. And then whatever is left over, I will be able to use these different challenge trackers to try. So this will be something that I will be trying new in plain sight with you all. And so there's kind of a lot of things I have 2 pages for, just because it's a 3-month challenge. And then there's some budget planner sheets that you can look into. I'm going to be asking for feedback on these. This to me is not enough. I use Notion for budget tracking, and I created a Google Sheet tracker from my Notions tracker. It's actually my Notions tracker. I bought that from, is it Etsy? I don't know, one of those sites where you download stuff for $1.99. And it's way too complicated, but I started using it, so I've been continuing to use it. But I don't actually use that until I'm really getting ready to buy stuff for the trip. So this is kind of like an a big level. And it says here, inside the challenge kit on School, there are also digital trackers. Use the space to capture ideas. So like, for example, looking into art classes, pottery classes, poetry classes, workshops, musical events, are things that I might put down here to remind myself that these are expenses I want to have my trip. Nobody's going to forget to buy, in my opinion. Most people are not going to forget to buy a plane ticket. You're not going to forget you need lodging,
Right.
But some of the other things is where you get into trouble, And so this is a travel planner that I've used in the past. I usually print these out and put them in a binder. So I have a binder here, little plastic. It's Walmart has school supplies for, pennies on the dollar, 38 cents for a composition notebook, and I think 25 or 35 cents for these plastic ones. If you want the kind that, I didn't get the kind that has the 3-hole punch in the side, inside, the rings. I didn't get that kind. But I might go back and get that kind because I'm mad that I didn't. And then I put some stickers on it. I got some sticker letters from the dollar store and put it on it. So that's where I'm putting my sheets. And then I'm putting the money in sheet protectors right behind the sheet. That's where I'm putting the cash that I don't spend.
Wow.
And I will go into that more in depth when we get to that point. And these are just examples of really fun. I saw people on YouTube who were making these, and I watched videos, and then I made some. Nobody has one that's travel themed. At least I couldn't find any. I'm sure there's probably some somewhere. So unfortunately, as Helese got a chance to preview this passport inside was supposed to be a lighter blue, but for some reason when I uploaded the image to Canva, it went dark. So, but it's going to be what it's going to be for this first version.
Yeah.
But the idea is you pull out your Sharpie and you color it in, or you just cross it off, or you put a date over it, however you want to track it. Once I print mine and do it, I will do it on camera and show you guys what I'm doing. And then I love this because, so for me, one of my habits every day is that I'm going to say affirmations about being able to afford to travel in the way, to have a travel lifestyle that I can afford and feel good about spending money so that I'm not always a budget traveler. I aspire to not be a budget traveler all my life, okay?
Yeah.
And so saying my affirmations, journaling, doing my cash stuffing in my envelopes, or setting up my envelopes on Sunday night for the week, whatever, that's going to look like. This is my habit tracker that says that I did it 30 days in a row or 60 days in a row.
I
The
love
other
that.
way you can use this particular sheet is you can put, if you're because I did this years ago with the kids. We would take any change that we had at the end of every day when we came. This is before everything was digital and they had smartphones, and we would put it in a jar in the house. The change, saving change. That was something. I grew up in a family. We had a big change jar in the kitchen, and my parents would, empty their stuff every two or three times a week, and they would put all their change in there. And then once a year, they would take that whole change jar and they would go take it to the bank. So this could be that kind of habit, so whatever habits you have that you write on the previous page, this is what your 30 days of tracking. And so this is the first tracker that I'm going to do. I don't know why, but it's one of my favorite ones. I think it's kind of cute. I'm going to hang it up on my bulletin board. And so basically at the end of the week, I'm going to go through my wallet, and any fives the first week that I have will go in there. This is where it's going to get hard. First of all, I don't have no extra $30. $50, $40 in my wallet at the end of the week.
And I don't carry cash. So it's just like,
yes.
For me,
the idea is that what I have heard is the tactile experience of converting yourself to cash. Remember, this challenge is about trying things that you would normally do, and everybody can enter at whatever way makes sense. This is one of the harder ones. So the idea is that because you're giving yourself a chance to spend in cash, you're going to spend less and you are going to have money left over. So I'm going to let you know if it's true. So if you finish the whole tracker, it's going to be $5.25. I foresee that I will make it to this $20 row. I don't foresee me getting to the bottom of this jar. But anyway, it's a $5 at the top. And so I put 2 of those in there. And then this is the budget swap part. So we're going to talk about this in the hair care products. Sounds like that's an area for you. So the monthly budget, for me, it might be eating out or Uber Eats. Actually, I'm so proud of myself.
Eating out and Uber Eats is definitely a part of mine too. Yeah.
So my budget for eating out is going to be X number of dollars. And again, if I'm going to convert that part of my budget to cash, it means I won't be doing Uber Eats. I won't be doing Uber Eats. And I did way too much Uber Eats while I was in Asia. So I need to stop. I need to slow down.
Yeah, yesterday, instead of going to buy a smoothie bowl, which is what I really wanted, it's about $15 or so. I did some frozen food, popped it in the oven, and that was dinner. I mean, it was not as satisfying, but it did what it had to do. In Mexico, I really started, before I came back to get this surgery done, I really started creating, I would do like bean salads, and there's these, there's these crackers that they use, but they're like the perfect size. And it's just like, you're just dipping you're creating like this really protein rich, with vegetables and a nice sauce like bean salad. And that would be like my lunch and dinner. I would always like have a nice breakfast every morning, like some kind of scrambled eggs and like toast or make some pancakes or whatever. And that, so I was able to like cut out just doing an Uber Eats in the middle of the day. Now I would still like go to a coffee shop and have my coffee and have a pastry or something, but at least I didn't have to spend that money on a meal. But yeah, cutting out drinking also really, really helps in terms of saving money. Um, and yeah, I'm excited. I do want to print out some of the pages from the workbook, and yeah, I'm excited to. I think the way that I'll like circumvent the cash thing, because I was going to go cash based in Mexico as well, but the ATM fees and just not having the money that I normally spend coming from an account that I had a good ATM. Like it's like my money system is different there. I just couldn't fully convert to like cash, even though you do need to have some cash on you for certain places that don't accept cards. But what I can do is there was this bank that people were talking about, which was what was it called? It was a bank that allows you to have buckets. Dr. Davia had mentioned it. It has
Oh yeah, I've heard
it
of that.
allows you to have buckets. You can the banks with buckets. If you Google that, then it'll definitely come up to whoever's watching. Um, I want to say it wasn't Relay. um, it slips my mind right now, but that might be a way that I can still visually separate where the money,
Hmm.
where this money is going. And so I think that that's something that I'm going to do. As long as you don't need to have a direct deposit to avoid fees, because I ain't got no direct deposit on a regular basis right now. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think basically I am trying this, like I said, because I hadn't tried it before. I just
Yes.
know that I wouldn't necessarily do something like this, but who knows? Maybe it'll work because I do know that I spend way too quickly because it's like just a clip, you know?
Yeah. You're
It's just a
echoing a
click, a
lot
phone, it's a
right
tap
now.
of your phone. I feel like I definitely am overspending because of how easy it is. And that if I have to open up my wallet and pull out cash, I know there's some places that are where I've traveled in Asia that are all only they only take their local currency. They don't do all the electronic. And I did find that I mean, of course things are cheaper there anyway, but I did find that I tended to, like if I took out a certain amount of Vietnamese dong to spend and I went somewhere to spend it, I would often look at, and there's a switch in your brain when you're handing over a physical something. There's a
Yeah.
tactile experience of giving up tender that I've heard described. And because of, like I said, my experience of being in a couple of smaller communities where you had to spend cash in both Vietnam as well as in Thailand, it made me realize that I probably need to try this in the United States. And but I'll be, reporting if it works. I do want to let you guys know that this is what the community looks like. This is my icon for the community. And there's this tab here that says classroom. And actually, there is no orientation for the community. Like there should be. Like I had meant to make an orientation, but I haven't. So anyway, but and part of that is because the community is still in development. We're still trying to figure out what people want to do. Like I originally thought that we would have co-working sessions, but
They
what I'm
could
going
be
to do is
they
wait
could
till we
be
get.
personal finance planning sessions, because I know that if you don't take the time to spend time with your money and all of that, then that's definitely something that's
Yes.
going to get away from you. So you could do that. They could be all centered around um,
Well,
finance.
yeah. So what Arlen so I have a school community because Arlen said get one or do it, right? So,
Yeah.
and it was part of my, I don't know. Don't ask me. All the things that I learned watching her videos for some reason are escaping me. I think it's because I'm hungry and it's past lunchtime. This
Oh
went a
yeah,
little
we
longer
definitely
than I thought,
gotta.
but I just wanted to show you that when you click on it, there's going to be these different pages. And so this is a cover of the book, but at the bottom here is the link to the flip book that we just saw. And then when you get to the second one, we have the Adobe PDF where you can, download and print certain pages. And then the link to this live, the replay, will be here on page 3. with all of Helese's information, and also in the YouTube description. It'll be here and there. And so I just wanted to make sure that you all knew that the way to get to this was going to be, where's my, oh, just going to stop sharing so we can hit the last question.
Yeah.
Now let me get to where, how do I get to Helese? There she is. Okay. And I actually had an outline. I just want to look quickly at the outline. One of the questions I had is, let us know if this live or the information that you've heard, if you're watching the replay, it has inspired you in any way. And are you open to trying a 3-month challenge to save money for your next travel in 2027? And what would you be saving for? I would love it if you'd put that in. Yes, you can download. Yeah, you have to get in the. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm supposed to be putting the questions in the chat. I'm learning. They've made it easier to show. Can I download the PDF? Just watch you just showed us. Yes, but you have to hit the link to join the community. Hang on, let me put that in the chat. I'm sorry. Helese, will you go ahead and share with that last question? Repeat the question and start sharing your answer. I'm going to pin you, and then I'm going to go get the link so I can put it in the chat for people to join the community.
Okay. What do you want people watching to walk away knowing about the challenge, about us, or about themselves? The first thing that I want people to walk away knowing about themselves ultimately is that anything is possible. And if you learn to work with your mind, and if you learn how to like literally simply do some research and math, you can afford to travel. It's not out of your reach. That is the number one thing to know, that you can do hard things. You can do things you never thought you did before. You could do things you've never done before. Here's how I got my I started driving at 30. I got my driver's license at 26 because I moved to New York when I was 17. So I never needed that. The way that I did it, overcame the nervousness, overcame the fear, is I just knew that like there were so many people who were like dumber than me on the road. I was like, if these people can get their license and be okay, I know I can. There's just no way. So listen, you're above average intelligence. I'm sure there's a bunch of people who aren't even half as smart as you out here traveling, doing what they want to do with a little bit of math, maybe some community encouragement, join the school community. Maybe with some one-on-one support, talk to Dr. Crystal. You can go from like, oh, I've never been overseas, I don't even have a passport, to like, oh, I do, I've been to one country for a month, or I took a sabbatical, or I moved, or if you like to travel quickly, you like to country hop, oh, I've been to 6 countries in the past year. Like, it is absolutely possible. That's the takeaway that I want people to know. The other takeaway is, one of the main barriers people have is literally thinking that it costs a lot more than it actually does. Do some math, audit your life, audit what you're spending money on, allocate that money to another pot. Pretty soon you got your money for like at least the one-way ticket. Pretty soon you got your money for at least a week's worth of housing somewhere abroad. So like, math is a tool that we were given and we need to use it. I feel like sometimes a lot of that is just overlooked. But yeah, about us, we're here, we're available. I'm going to be joining the community for sure in order to just help stay accountable and to support Dr. Crystal and her endeavors. I think that we've put ourselves out here. We've been completely transparent. So share this video. Absolutely share this video. It helps give more people reach. It helps inform more people about what's possible. And subscribe. Definitely subscribe to Dr. Crystal's channel. Like and comment, and do the same for my channel, please. And yeah, continue putting comments and continue putting questions, because she can always come back to them. And if you have a question for me, she'll definitely let me know. I'll come back and answer a question or comment or anything like that on the video. So those are my takeaways.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. You did an amazing job. I feel like I've already shared a little bit about the challenge. I did just put the link in the chat. There's only We had up to 10 people watching us. There's only 3 now. People have gone on to eat lunch.
Well, they've gotten
But
got
hopefully
the
they'll come
best.
back. They'll
Yeah.
come back for the links. And I just am really grateful for the time that we were able to spend together. I think what they should know about us is that we're real. You
Yeah.
know, we have logged the miles in the air, on the train, the plane, the automobile, the
So
boat.
true.
Actually, I haven't done much cruising. I haven't done much
Oh no,
cruising.
I haven't done that.
I would love to
No,
do
I
cruising.
don't know about
That's
that
something
one,
I
but
appreciate. You know, but we're
maybe anything.
basically
I'll try anything once.
yeah, we're sharing in real time what it's going to take for us to get to Colombia, and of course we're going to go back and do a live in Colombia next summer, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So right now the challenge is just the beginning, and so my goal for this week is to actually, as I get ready to go to England, I will have to convert cash to British pounds, but I am planning to do that and to operate in cash. I have a wallet that actually holds cash, but I am going to be taking these little clips, bookmark clips, to put my, to say, I'm only there 2 weeks actually, but I know it's easy when you're out of town to be like, oh, I don't need to save, but I'm still saving. I'm actually not doing a vacation trip. I'm going to house sit, so I will be working while I'm there. It's sort of a digital nomad / house sit. I'm going to go out to dinner, of course, a few times with friends in the area, maybe to a show or a museum. But again, those are going to be budget conscious things. And so I think I would be excited to have you join the community, excited to have you join Helese and I as we work on our personal savings goals for this month and this quarter. And I think you can do it. I mean, my motto
Yeah.
is you deserve a sabbatical. And I would also say you deserve a sabbatical that's well funded so that you don't have to stress about money. And the key to doing that is practicing new healthy habits when it comes to our finances. And that's mentally, physically, and spiritually, or all the ways, emotionally. Like because even if we make a mistake and we do something, I was like, sometimes I waste money on something and then I'm like mad at myself that I spent that. Like I decide to splurge and eat something, but I didn't do my due diligence. It tastes terrible. And not only have I wasted $20 eating out someplace, I now still need to eat because I'm still not about to eat stuff that's nasty.
Right. Exactly.
But you
No.
can't beat yourself up about it. Like, because
No.
$20 wasted ends up being $50 wasted.
I'm not a fan of crying over spilled milk. Whatever happened in the past, we're just moving forward from it. And I found that all the people that I admire and who achieve what they want, they don't waste time doing that. So I was like, oh, I need to take a page out of their book. Plus, it changes nothing. It helps nothing to live in regret. It even for the smallest thing or even the largest thing. You can gain something positive from that experience. So just start from where you are and just move on. You'll never make that mistake again, you know? Or maybe you will, and it still will not be the end of the world. Things are always working out for me. That is my number one. That's one of my
Oh, yes.
ingrained affirmations. So,
Yes. And the next thing that I'm working on that I'm really excited about, that's about 50, I have the content, but I haven't made it look beautiful in a digital product. I'm in love with these flip books, girl, is the affirmation book. So there's an affirmation
yay.
journal that goes with the challenge. I love an affirmation. I made an
I love
affirmation. That was another
affirmations.
product that I made. I made an affirmation journal last year that released in October in honor of my mother's birthday for Black educators. And it's an affirmation girls guide for teachers of color, basically, to teach
Mhm.
with power and purpose. I think that's the subtitle. But basically, coming up with something that you're an expert in, and that's one of the the themes for the week of the challenge is to come up with something that you're good at and make a digital product, or find somebody on Fiverr to make you a digital product, or maybe Helese is taking freelance clients, to make you a digital product for
I
a
have
certain
made a
thing.
journal. I have made a journal. I think I'm really great with content. I think if you have a digital product and you need feedback and you need to flesh that out, that is where I shine because I'm not a graphic designer.
Okay.
Um, I'm not a
Well, they
graphic
have
designer.
templates though. I mean, really, all you have to do to get started is to drop your content in to Canva, And even with the free account, it might not be the most beautiful digital book, but people will buy a digital book or a digital product because they need the information.
True.
It doesn't have, while Arlen would say, don't be playing, make something that's worth $99. That's her thing. I know a lot of people who made thousands of dollars selling digital products, and I have purchased plenty of digital products at all price points. I have purchased them at $9 all the
Same
way
here.
up to $1,909. That's the most expensive purchase I've made for an online product. And so don't cheat people. I believe
No,
in
you have to
offering
provide value for sure.
provide value. But I made this for you guys for free now because I'm developing it. I want it to be good, but it will
Yeah.
not be $9 when I figure this out. Look for next year when I have used it to make my money. Look for next year. It will not be $9.
Because it's a tried and tested and true. It's tried and true. Yes, and I
Yes.
just want to make it clear, I am taking clients, though. Always, always, always. Like, you can put a comment. You can email me at holahelese@gmail.com. So I'll go ahead and put that in the comments after we get off.
Okay. Okay.
I created a whole new email address to take in all my new clients, all my new people, all the people who need help from me. And if you think we work well together, I'm ready to go, So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I appreciate your time today. I feel like we have given good value for these 2 hours. Thank God you
Agreed.
can watch things on double time and
Agreed.
1.5 times, and you can look at the chapter time marks to find what you need or re-watch what you need. But it was my honor spending the afternoon with you. I'm going to go have some lunch. I have you have a wonderful
Please go
afternoon.
eat.
And we will, since we're accountability partners, we have to check in next week. The time zone will be a little off, but I will send you a message, but we have
Yes,
to keep
please.
each other checked in with what's going on. Or if you're struggling, to me, that's a big part of the challenge is finding an accountability partner. So when you're having a bad day or you make that bad decision, you have somebody to talk you off the ledge. Or just say what your goals are for the week and how well you did your goals for the week. I don't think I'm saving anything this week, but I have some things I need to put in place to take with me to be successful to not fall off the wagon for the first of
Right,
August.
during your
So
trip.
I will be checking in with you about those things for sure.
Yay! Well, we already do that anyway.
Yeah.
So I think we're great at communicating and keeping each other in the loop, even just to come here and be at this point. So I think it's going to go perfectly and smoothly, and I absolutely know that we are going to achieve our goals. So
Absolutely.
with that, thank you so much for having me. Please go eat. I'm very, very big on self-care. So not another minute. Please go eat. I'm going to say goodbye to your audience now.
All right. Thank you,
thank
everybody,
you to
for
them.
joining. Thank you, everybody, for joining. If you have not, hit the like button, subscribe, leave us a comment, and tell us how much you want to save and where you're going with the money when you get there. Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.